Hello and welcome to the Daily Forex Report for June 6th. We're looking at the US-Japanese yen pair. This pair closed up during this last session. We are looking for it to potentially go as high as 79.95, possibly as low as 78.27. Look for some resistance around 79.75 and look for some support around 78.84. Now the Euro-USD pair, it closed higher as well, getting real close to previous areas of resistance. Look for this pair to potentially go as high as 126.98, possibly as low as 123.76. Look for some resistance around 126.25 and look for some support around 124.36. Now the pound US dollar pair, it pulled back during today's session as well. It's one of the strongest pullbacks we've seen recently. We are looking for this pair to potentially go as high as 156.11, possibly down to 153.14. Look for some resistance at 15600 and look for some support around 153.75. Now looking at the US Swiss, this pair closed down, closed almost on its lows. We are looking for it potentially going as high on a reversal up to 0.9696, possibly as low as 0.9452. Look for some resistance around 0.9650 and look for some support around 0.9525. Okay, now as far as news announcements go, we do have some news announcements going into tomorrow's session. Thursday, we have the pound releasing their BOE, Bank of England, asset purchase targets for June at 7 a.m. Eastern. Consensus on that one is that it's held at 325 billion. Then a little bit later in the day at the same time, 7 a.m. Eastern, we have the Bank of England releasing their rate decision. Consensus on that one is that they're going to hold rates at 0.50%. Then at 10 a.m. Eastern, we have the Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke testifying before Congress, so that'll be definitely interesting, something to keep an eye on. Then at 7:50 p.m. Eastern, we have the Japanese Gross Domestic Product annualized being released. Consensus on that one is that it's moved slightly higher from 4.1% up to 4.5%, which would be good news for the Japanese yen. Now, what am I looking at during this next session? Well, if you go to the US Swiss, we have a trend line that can be drawn from this low. And if we tag this low as well, let me zoom in now. So we have a trend line that's been hit once, twice, 3 times, pulled back, and now it closed below it. And the only thing about this is it's basically over the span of one time frame. However, we do have it hit here and pull back and close higher, hit here and here. So it is technically within 1 and 2. Did close down. Don't have a trend finder trade as of yet off of this one because we don't have a trend finder arrow shorting it. But it could very well, you could very well make the argument that it to go ahead and go short because of the trend line break. Now, what we typically see off of this, if you tag the high here, that's about 230 to the downside. A 1-to-1 would be 230 pulling back down into this range. You could also go right above the trend line, be a little more aggressive with the stop loss, which would be about 70 pips. And then look to get 70 to the downside. I think that's a little tight, but it's a potential if you want to be aggressive with your stop loss. Now, similar situation in the US-Japanese yen pair. We have a situation where we have trend line that's been touched several times over multiple time periods, which is always a good thing. And if you notice today, closed right at that trend line, broke it, has broken it today. However, we don't know what's going to happen here. So if this closes up, we could see a reversal in the US yen. Just have to keep an eye on it. Pound US dollar pair, similar thing with the pound. We have a trend line there. You can also draw a trend line from this point down. The only thing with this trend line is we really are looking at one time period, not my favorite, closed above it. But from a wave theory standpoint, we have 1 pullback, 2, 3 pullback. So we could be looking, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Our fifth leg of this one could move us on down the line. I do believe we'll see this pair move lower, so keep that in mind. A reversal play is potentially get the 1-to-1, but we could have it reverse as well. 190 there. If you tag the low, about 240. I'd probably go with about 184, which would mean we'd have a pullback back to around the 156.81 mark. And the U.S. Swiss. By the way, going against the trend off of a trend line is not the best idea. Ideally, what you want to do is do the opposite. Take the trend line in the direction of the long-term trend. Well, I hope that helps. And until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.